spoken within the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. John chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. In the light of the previous reflections on the person, we can glance back to the very beginning of the prologue, indeed, at the text in its entirety, and draw things together by coming full circle. I preface the words of the prologue with an in-depth meditation on how the foundation of our existence is the encounter between I and you. In other words, I try to show how all of human existence is inherently dialogical and relational. In loving relationship with a you alone do I find my own I, my own personhood, flowering freely in its authentic truth. Yet if I, instead, choose to turn away from the you and to sever myself from the relationship in which I am constituted, I fracture not only the relationship, but the very structure of my own I. For as Ferdinand Ebner wrote, the I and the thou, you, are the spiritual realities of life. The I exists only in relation to the thou and not outside of it. But what does this have to do with the prologue of John's Gospel? How does this connect with the statements on the Word who is always with the Father, and who comes among us to reveal to us the radiant face of God? The Son who is eternally in the bosom of the Father, and becomes one of us to allow us to share in the same intimacy that is his with the Father. It really brings us right to the heart of it. For who is this beloved Son but the one who eternally allows himself to be spoken lovingly by the Father, and who is a total response of reciprocal love? In other words, who is God but the eternal dialogue of love between the Father and the Son in the single breath of their Holy Spirit? Let me quote Alan Vincelette in his explanation on the thought of Ferdinand Ebner concerning the term word in John's Gospel. Moreover, as dialogue between spiritual realities, I and thou, presupposes language, the word or the logos, we can at another level say that the word, especially as speech, is constitutive of our existence. For example, what makes us human and separates us from animals is in part the fact that we can speak. The word is what gives life to humans in the first place, as language allows for a life of dialogue. For the human person is fundamentally the capacity for speaking and being spoken to, and one cannot really be an I without a thou. Language, the word, logos, additionally permits thought and reason to take root in our being. And this thought and reason, in turn, permits us to grasp and express our own existence as an I am, or person, our objective relation, and permits us as well to be a hearer and grasp the nature of the world, our objective relation again, and then a doer and actor in the world, our subjective relation. The word, by giving humans language and thought, thus lets them enter into relations of dialogue and love, I-thou relations, and realize themselves. To express this more simply, I can speak only because I am first spoken to. Indeed, I can enter into dialogue only because I am, in some way, within dialogue already. I can allow myself to be drawn into relationships of speaking and listening, of receiving and giving love, only because I have always already been loved, listened to, and received. Indeed, it is accurate to say not only that I am already spoken to, but that I am spoken into, as my very capacity to think, to desire, to love, is but the impress or the echo of God's own creative word within my heart. Yes, we can go so far as to say that I am spoken into existence, that my very personal existence is a word from God, spoken forth within the uncreated word. Thus, our human relationships are truly a matter of word speaking to word within the word. My created I and your created you encounter and are united in the absolute Thou who has created each of us, and who has already addressed us in love from the first moment of our existence. Our speaking to one another, therefore, is but a re-speaking of the Word that has already spoken us into being, and who ceaselessly speaks into us the breath of life, knowledge, and love. In the same way, our thinking, when it corresponds with authentic reality, is but a recognition, literally a re-thinking, of the eternal thought of God, within which the world is always held. Our living encounter with truth, goodness, and beauty, therefore, is a sharing in the very reality that is the certain knowledge and love of the Trinity. It is the insertion of our own being into the being of the Trinity, who, as the eternal I-Thou relation, is the ground and sustainer of all being. Yes, God is the Thou before whom the whole created world is an I addressed in ceaseless dialogue. Or indeed, he is himself the I before whom the created you is constituted in relationship of love and filial dependence, as one who is addressed, and who finds his or her fulfillment precisely in welcoming this word of love, and remaining in a ceaseless dialogue of love in intimate relationship with it. Simply put, this means that prayer is the true foundation of human existence and is our highest vocation. In prayer alone, in this intimate dialogue of love with God, do I find my authentic truth as an I set free. Because here I return into that sacred space at the core of my being where I am, indeed, pure relationship with the eternal Thou who ceaselessly loves me, and in loving me, speaks me into being.